Hello, friends. This is Christopher Davis-Shannon, and today we're going all the way across the United States and down to Texas. I'm joined by the wonderful Ashley Orlando. Ashley, how are you today?
Hi, Christopher. I'm so good. It's a gray day here, but it's the last day of 2020, so you got to be happy about that.
Yeah, and I think of gray days appropriate for that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So before we talk about music and all that jazz, would you mind just kicking us off with a tune?
I would love to. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
That was a lovely rendition of one of my favorite nursery rhymes, which is Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I'm curious, what made you adapt that to ukulele in this style?
Actually, the pandemic, right when everything started closing down, and I had a surprising amount of time on my hands. I'm normally running all over Houston, but all of a sudden I was like, okay, well now, what am I going to do with this free time? And I started just picking up random songs, came across that song one day, and realized the lyrics actually can be interpreted in a variety of different ways. I started thinking about it as, what if that twinkling star it talks about is not something intangible and far away? What if it's something that's actually inside each one of us and that we can offer to make our community a better place to live, make the world a little bit better for everybody?
Absolutely. And I think, just speaking about lyrics a little bit, I think the first video I ever saw you perform was You Are My Sunshine. Um,
Oh,
the vocal version that you did right around the beginning of the pandemic, probably. I mean, it was back in the spring, I think. And that's another one of those tunes that we kind of ignore the lyrics a little bit. And then you go to learn it, you go, oh, this is a very sad song. A
yeah, yeah.
depressing tune. There's so many of these older, like what we think of as children's songs now that were maybe had other purposes there in the beginning. And Charlie's just going right now. So proud of him.
Well, that
Uh,
song actually is from Louisiana, which I'm also from Louisiana.
it's the
So,
state song of Louisiana, isn't it?
yeah, it
I,
is.
I believe
We
the
have
governor is the one
several.
that copyrighted it.
And supposedly he wrote it about his horse, which the horse was named Sunshine. So
Yes. I
you are
will
my
just
sunshine, my only
I will just never believe that Jimmy Davis actually wrote that song. I'm in that contingent. Maybe it's a conspiracy theory. I don't know, but it at least the melody definitely dates back so much further than the copyright on the song.
sunshine.
And we see that so much in the old blues, the early blues and jazz standards of borrowed melodies and all of that, and then the copywriting craze of please give me money for this.
Yeah. Well, we in Louisiana love to promote the fact that we have so many musicians. So, I have to at least throw
Yes.
that idea out there, even if it may not be entirely true.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, you also have the best state song of any state, because of course Indiana couldn't even choose Indiana as their state song, which
Oh,
would have been a
their
good one,
song.
but no. And I am blessed to be in Pennsylvania, where we in fact have the worst state song ever written. It was written by one of our senators in 1993. Not a musician. He just found out we didn't have a state song, so he wrote one.
In 93? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. But speaking of things that have happened recently, you're actually kind of new to the world of ukulele, but not at all a new musician by any stretch of the imagination. So you're a trained classical singer who found your way somehow to the tiny, wonderful instrument of ukulele. So what got you to where you are now musically?
Yeah, that's a great question, Christopher. So I got a voice minor in music in college. I knew that I didn't really want to become like an opera singer, or I didn't necessarily want to be a teacher in the classroom every day. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to do music on the side. I'll keep it for fun.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that I did that, that I didn't totally, shelve it. But I took a big break between high school, where I did everything musical, and then about 10 years after college, I was still doing music on the side. But then my husband got transferred to Houston. We had just gotten married, and boom, okay, his company decided they were going to transfer us to Texas.
And you were still in Louisiana at that
We
point.
were, yeah. And I had just gotten an ukulele. My sister, one of my younger sisters, actually studied abroad in Hawaii. It was such a horrible experience for her. We had to go and visit.
Experience in Hawaii.
No, she absolutely loved it. She didn't want to come home. We did eventually convince her to come home, but I got to go and visit her, and I thought, okay, well, if I'm in Hawaii, why don't I try this, tiny little stringed instrument that I have heard so much about, but I didn't actually know anyone who played it. I just knew about Jason Mraz and, Zoe Deschanel did a little collaboration online that I'd seen on YouTube. But I knew very little about the ukulele. I didn't even know the sizes. I went to the store and I said, this is me. I'm interested in playing this instrument. Give me the one that you think would be good for my hands. And they gave me a concert-sized ukulele, which I'm very thankful for now. But anyway, so I came home from Hawaii. I had my instrument. I randomly came across a group of other people who played ukulele in Baton Rouge, where we lived at the time. It was a very small group of people. I have no idea how
they're everywhere. You can go anywhere in this country and you will find like 20 ukulele players off in the corner of a bar strumming together.
And they were not on the internet. It was just so serendipitous that I came across them. And so they took me under their wing. They were all elderly, so nice, so sweet, and they could do like harmonies and stuff. So as a singer, I was interested in that. I thought, oh, this is cool. So I got my feet wet with them. And then when we moved to Houston, I discovered a group called Houkulele, which is the Houston Ukulele Club. And that is huge just because Houston is huge.
Yeah.
So that really introduced me to several players who were way better than I was. And it kind of gave me a taste for, ooh, okay, this is really what you can do with the ukulele. And then the rest is history.
And I think that's an eye-opening moment for a lot of us. And I know I had the same experience of thinking of the ukulele as little strum open chords. And when you finally meet someone that can really play, it opens up, and especially as a musician already, you go, oh, that's right, this is a real instrument. And sometimes it gets a bad rap, but you can do anything on this little instrument that you can do on anything else, and that's...
The first song I played for my mom, she was like, oh, well, that's not a Hawaiian song. I didn't know you could do anything other than Hawaiian music on an ukulele. And I started laughing because, of course, you can play any style you want. It's just how you play it.
Right, of course, and that's another just common misconception I see, especially amongst beginners, is that you have to play specific things on specific instruments. It's all music, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is the fun thing. And with that, would you mind just playing us another tune?
Sure, I'd love to. Feel that groove.
When marimba rhythms start to play, dance with me and make me sway. Like a lazy ocean hugs the shore, hold me close, sway me more. Like a flower bending in the breeze, bend with me, sway with ease. When we dance you have a way with me, stay with me, sway with me. Other dancers may be on the floor, dear, but my eyes will see only you. Only you have that mind. Other dancers may be on the floor, dear, but my eyes will see only you. Only you have that magic technique. When we sway, I go weak. I can hear the sound of violins long before it begins. Make me thrill as only you know how. Sway me smooth, sway me now. When marimba rhythms start to play, dance with me, make me sway. Like a lazy ocean hugs the shore, hold me close, sway me more. Like a lazy ocean hugs the shore, hold me close, sway me more.
So right before we went into that tune, you had mentioned the ukulele group that you found in Houston when you moved there. And you're not just a member of that ukulele group now, you're in fact one of the leaders of that group. And why is my question? Why?
Well, I am of the personality that I can't just be involved in something. I have to stoke the fire, I guess. I call myself an instigator because I always want to kind of push the envelope. So when I first found Houkulele, like I said, it's a very large group because we have so many people in the Houston area. And they were at the time meeting in different parts of the city. It takes a really long time to drive around Houston, so it's easiest if you just meet with people who live near you. But they weren't necessarily doing things in the community. And I looked around me at all these players, some of them who were really incredible, and I thought, we can totally do stuff. We can do performances, we can really get this music out into the community and help show people, dispel some of those rumors about the ukulele, being in a specific lane or specific niche, not a real instrument for a bunch of genres, and give back to the community, really inspire our own members to want to play for other people. So that's what we did.
That is amazing. And again, you as a longtime musician, when I first got into uke playing, finding ukulele groups was something incredible to me because it's something we don't see with other instruments. Sometimes the vocalists, you'll find a community choir or something like that, but it's a very different vibe from a ukulele group. And me as a bass player, us bass players don't really hang out and play. We hang out and drink. We don't hang out and play. It's just not what we do. And it's this special thing that the uke community has cultivated all over the world. I mean, this is not at all a distinctly American thing. I've seen ukulele groups in just so many countries, especially across Europe and in the UK very much. And it really allows even amateur performers and players to have a space and an outlet for their creativity, which a lot of us aren't really, as instrumentalists especially, you don't always have that inviting opportunity. And I think that's a really beautiful thing that we have in this community that we don't have in other ones. But before we hit record on this, you and I were actually talking about performing and the importance of performance. Regardless of where you are in your musical journey. And it's something that I have always stressed as a teacher is that my students, even if they never actually want to be on stage performing, need to at least think about performance, because ultimately that's kind of our goal when we're playing music, isn't it? Even if it's performance for ourselves, and not an audience, but it totally changes your mindset as far as what you're doing.
Well, if you think about music as just a different form of storytelling, I think the performance side is so important because you are telling that story through either your fingers or your voice, whatever instrument you happen to be playing. And so there's something really special about the connection with an audience, a live audience. We've had to adapt throughout the pandemic to global and virtual performances, which are totally different than having people sit in front of you, Yes. And like you were saying earlier, you're probably gonna make at least 1 or 50 mistakes during a
Probably 50. I mean, I go for as many as possible during live performance just to challenge myself.
So it's a great way to learn how to overcome mistakes, keep going, figure out how to still make your performance, how to still connect with that audience, because again, it's just a story in the end. It just happens to be in a really cool format, which is, you know, a musical story.
Absolutely. And we spend so much time in the practice room, you know, not making mistakes or attempting to not make mistakes. But for anyone listening out there, everyone screws up. I I hate to break this to you. Jake Shimamura has played wrong notes in his life on stage. It happens, and it's okay. And that's part of, you know, music is this living, breathing thing. It's, if robots were playing it on stage, like in Disney World, when you go to Epcot and you see the robots on stage singing things, you know, that's not, doesn't have the emotional impact of when you're standing in front of someone. But sometimes screwing up is the best part of the performance and where that leads you to. And you have to let yourself do it. I'm curious, actually, since you've been performing for a while, what was your first performance in your life?
Oh, good. This is funny you asked me this question because I just, I'm in a speech club and I just gave a talk about how my first performances or my first times on stage were absolutely horrible. The very first time I was on stage, it was for a beauty pageant when I was like 2. So I had no idea what was going on. My mom put me in a big frilly dress, and all these people are staring at me, these strangers, and I'm supposed to walk across the stage and smile, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm bawling and kicking and screaming. My mom had to drag me across the stage. So it's pretty crazy that now I get on stage on purpose and actually like to try and, you know, really interact with the audience. Yeah. I'm one who doesn't want to just sit there and just, you know, quietly play. I want to be expressive, and I want to connect with those who are watching.
Right. And that takes time as well. I mean, that's a skill set in and of itself. You just said you're in a speech club as well, which I'm sure very much helps with performance and being able to interact with an audience, because it's not all about music as much as we would love for it to be, and just think that our music speaks for everything. You know, being able to connect with an audience goes a little bit further than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that has really been it's been the game changer for me in becoming, you know, a jazz vocalist, being able to introduce my songs, to be able to talk between, you know, sets or stall for time. If, for example, I'm playing with my band and they, you know, something goes wrong or they need to switch an instrument.
Yeah.
If you're just staring at the audience, then the audience is going to feel uncomfortable, which is the last thing you want them to feel.
Yeah. And how many times have each of us been at a concert and that exact scenario happens?
Yeah, it's always going to
do that.
It's always going to happen. So if you can feel and look comfortable, even if inside you've got some butterflies, that's okay. You'll always be a little bit nervous. That gives you extra energy. But if you can appear very comfortable and confident, then the audience is going to also feel relaxed and enjoy your performance way more.
Right. I mean, I think it was Roy Bookbinder I was talking to once at this festival, and he was talking about, like, the ultimate goal of performance is bringing people into your living room, no matter how big it is. And that's speaking to that level of comfort that you want to give them. You know, like, it's not watching this spectacle, it's being together and sharing in this art and this music together. That's what makes music so beautiful, not just sitting alone in your room playing.
Mm-hmm. And that vulnerability, you know, sometimes making mistakes can actually, like, if it's a small mistake, the audience might actually like you even more, because then they can relate to you.
It makes you
They're
human.
like, oh wow,
Absolutely.
you're human.
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing we forget. We sometimes raise these amazing artists up to, like, godlike level, and then sometimes you realize, like, everyone makes mistakes because we are humans, and that's the joy. Like, music and art is inherently flawed, and always will be until the robots are creating it. I feel like I'm on a just crash course of just robots taking over the world today.
What have you been watching?
Or I nothing, I swear, but maybe we're just in apocalypse year, and that's that's why. But just to get away from the apocalypse, I know with your youth group, you actually do more than just perform. You also have some charity initiatives that you have kind of spearheaded over there in the ukulele world. Can you just tell the people a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, sure. So one of the best parts about me moving to Houston and discovering Houkulele is that it also led me to the Ukulele Kids Club, which right after Hurricane Harvey flooded a lot of Houston, they actually donated a bunch of ukuleles to kids who had lost their homes or had to live in temporary shelters, and that just kind of snowballed into becoming an advisory board member for the UKC. So what their main mission is to donate ukuleles to kids in hospitals through music therapy programs. And I personally, I've never actually, been a recipient of music therapy, but my papa, toward the end of his life, suffered from dementia. And that was right around the same time that I picked up the ukulele. So I knew You Are My Sunshine and maybe two other songs.
My
But I was able to use it
grandmother
with him.
had
It was
had
awesome.
dementia, and she could not remember people's names, but if you hummed a melody, she could sing the entire tune back to you. And it's there's really something there in music therapy that transcends what traditional medicine can do. Sometimes it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, so for me, it really, it hits home because I've seen how the ukulele brought me back to singing after a long gap. I was doing more businessy type stuff, and then all of a sudden, it falls in my hands, and I haven't put it down since. That was 4 years ago as of November. So it really has totally transformed my life into something that I always dreamed about, but I wasn't quite confident enough to really make it happen before.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can certainly relate to that myself, spending so many years as a bass player and still being a bass player, but I've been able to travel and do so much more because of what uke has afforded me over the last few years. And it's something that I'd even written off as like just a tiny toy instrument for for years. We always had one at the house when I was growing up. Actually, the first tunes I ever played were on my mom's Disney ukulele. My
Oh,
father
wow.
had gotten her for one of their anniversaries at some point. It's still there, and I still play it when I'm over there. But the uke is just an amazing little instrument that's so accessible to everyone. I think that's the thing.
And I love that about it because I don't know if I mentioned this before, but in high school and junior high, I tried piano and I actually did try guitar. And both of those, I kind of, the interest just waned eventually. I still have each of those instruments, but the guitar, for example, hurt in high school. I tried to play it and I was like, ow, this is uncomfortable. The ukulele, I wish someone had put an ukulele in my hands at that moment and said, well, try this instead, because it is so much more beginner friendly.
And I'm really glad to see a lot of schools in America now. It's been common in Canada for years. Are starting to integrate ukuleles into the music program, especially in like early childhood education for third, fourth, fifth grade. And I think it's probably the best instrument to learn on because it is so accessible and so easy to get those first few chords out. But in America, we have this long tradition of making children play recorders in school, with these really annoying little flutes for anyone that doesn't know. But with ukulele, we give harmony and melody context as well, instead of just playing these individual notes. And I think from a musical standpoint, regardless of whether you ever continue with music, that's such a more beneficial thing, if especially to accompany yourself on voice, if you're able to hear and start to internalize and understand that harmony. So I think they were getting to that point where people are just starting to put ukuleles in children's hands at a younger point, instead of starting them off on, the more traditional instruments that we think of, the woodwinds and piano and all of that. And I think that's a beautiful change that I've been watching happen in American society over the past 5 years or so.
Well, and it's great for schools too because a couple ukuleles are way cheaper than a piano, and the kids can actually carry them around.
Yeah. And God bless the teachers for tuning 20 of them.
Yeah.
And then listening to them be out of tune for half the lesson. It's the only detriment. Ashley, would you mind just playing us one final tune?
Sure, that'd be great.
Now I'm the king of the swingers of the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me. I wanna be a man cub and stroll right into town and be just like the other monkeying around. Oh, ooby-doo, I wanna be like you. I wanna walk like you, talk like you too. You see, it's true how someone like me can learn to be like someone like you. Now don't try to kid me, man, cub, I made a deal with you. What I desire is man's fire to make my dreams come true. Now give me the secret, man, cub, come on, clue me what to do. Give me the power of man's fire so I can be like you. Oh, ooby-doo, I wanna be like you. Ba-ba-doo-ba-doo-bee, wanna walk like you, talk like you too. You see, it's true how someone like me can learn to be like someone like you. Ooby-doo, ba-ba-da-ba-da-da-da-da, shoo-ba-doo-ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-da-da. Repeat after me. Ah-ba-doo-ba-da-bee, tweet-tweet-da, shoo-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-da-da, brrr-ba-ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Your turn. All right. Your turn. Ooh, I wanna be like you. Yes, I do. I wanna walk like you, talk like you too. You see, it's true how someone like me can learn to be like someone like you. Can learn to be like someone like you. One more time. Can learn to be like someone like you.
Ashley, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me. And I will link to Ashley's website and her videos and all that jazz below, so you can go check her out for everyone that's not familiar with her. So again, thank you so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. If you wouldn't mind, would you just give us a little bit of exit music?
I would love to.